If you'd like to be able to listen to the show without ads and have full access to bonus content, that's an option. To find out how, please go to dogmanencounters.com/podcast. Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us for this special live stream episode of the show. If you caught Friday night's show, you listened to our guest Jo come on and tell us about the horrible Dogman encounters that she had. Well, on tonight's show, she's come back to talk about those encounters. I've got several questions I want to ask her, and if you're in the live chat and have questions for her, she's going to be on hand to answer your questions as well. But having said that, without further ado, let's bring Jo on now. Jo, thanks so much for coming back.
Hi, thank you, Vic. Hi, everybody. I'm glad that you came back.
You talk about a fan favorite, Jo. When people listen to what you unfortunately were made to bear with your encounters, it really tugged at their heartstrings. When you check out the comments on Friday night's show, that's immediately evident. So I'm sure you've read through those comments, haven't you, from that show?
I read through those, and I tell you, I was crying through most of them. And for the first time, it was happy tears that I was crying. I don't think I've ever felt that much love and support in my entire life. And there are no words to thank you guys for being such a wonderful group of people. I love you all.
I told you they're amazing people, absolutely amazing. And also touching on how amazing they are when they heard about the situation you're in, your living situation. The latest time I looked in on your GoFundMe page, I think the total was $4,765. So you're literally, this was about maybe half an hour or so ago, you're literally, or at least back then you were, only $235 away from reaching that $5,000 goal. I don't even know what to say. All the people out there who have chipped in to help support Jo, and also people who didn't have the means to chip in and give a donation, but you supported her with your words and support. I don't know what to say. I just don't know what to say. All I can say is thank you so much. I've been telling Jo about how amazing you are and how supportive you are, but I just couldn't do it justice. The only thing I could do to give her a taste of what I was talking about was just to let her see with her own two eyes what I was telling her about you. And wow, like I said, I don't know what to say. I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Jo, for anyone who missed Friday night's show, can you give them a brief rundown on why you came on the show in the first place?
I came on to talk about a Dogman encounter that actually was more than one time. It kept coming back, I guess, to torture me, to stalk me, and in the end, I felt to hunt me. And I had kept it pent in for all these years, and it was just eating me alive. I didn't know what it was called. I didn't know if it was a demon from hell. I didn't know if it was a werewolf, but I thought those were only in the movies. And I started hearing about people like you who had podcasts, and they were calling them dogmen. And so I started listening and learning, and it just lined up. That all of the descriptions that they were saying, I was going, God, that is really what it was. And so the fact that I could put a name to it helped quite a bit too. And then just listening to more people share their encounters and how they were doing well and dealing with it. And they weren't feeling the shame saying anything. They were being brave and sharing it, not being afraid to say something and have somebody make fun of them. And they all were wonderful, and they'd made me feel a lot stronger about doing it. And then I had the wonderful chance of meeting with you, and you were so great and supportive. And that first night, as I was telling you, how terrified I was, and I was afraid I was going to have another nightmare that night because we were talking about it, you said, I'm going to tell you something. I want you to listen. If it wanted to kill you, it would have done it. And you just kind of made me have to sit back and go, well, yeah, I guess walking around in total fear all the time is kind of overkill because you're right. It would have got me already. And that was kind of the start of my healing. And then you introduced me to a wonderful angel named Anne, who worked with me on it and is going to continue teaching me how to do lucid dreams so I can take control of those nightmares and get on top of that too. And I just felt like I was maybe having a chance at a new life. And then with everybody's wonderful contributions that they've done, I know I'm getting ready to have a new life because I'm going to be living in a house that's not slowly killing me and my daughter. And maybe we can even get back part of our health. And it's all thanks to you, wonderful people. Thank you so much. And thank you, Vic.
Oh, you're welcome. You're more than welcome. I told you how wonderful they are. I told you. And again, everyone listening who has given support to Joe, like I said, whether it's financial and supportive by your words, the comments you've been leaving, or if it's been a matter of just leaving supportive comments, I can't thank you enough. I said, I just don't know what to say. I mean, thank you so much. Here we are less than 48 hours away from that show. And here we've already almost met her goal of $5,000. She said that she thought she would only need 2,000, but it's always more expensive to move, to do things like that than what you expect. So I thought for unforeseens, well, maybe it would be best to post a goal of 5,000. And I thought, okay, that's a lofty goal, but here we are, less than 48 hours away from that, and we've almost met that goal already. I mean, wow, I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say, except for, like I said, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So, yeah,
Vic,
I'm going to beat a dead horse there. I admit it, but I'm going to thank you again, too. But I just really appreciate you supporting her the way you have.
and I think that was your wisdom, Vic, for setting that at 5,000, because like I told you, that seemed so lofty for me to even ask for that. But I don't have a refrigerator or a stove or a washer or dryer. They came with this house, and both the washer and dryer has needed repairs, and she told me too bad. And so I always wonder if they're going to keep working. But the house that I'm wanting to move into doesn't have them. Well, I thought if I sold enough of my furniture, I could buy a refrigerator that I could use my electric skillet, my crock pot, and my little toaster oven and make that as a stove. And then it started hitting me. I might have enough left over if this thing really went to 5,000 that I could buy maybe a cheap refrigerator and cheap stove and a washer and dryer so that my daughter, who's feeling ill, wouldn't have to be trying to go to a hot laundromat and do it. And I think you guys have blessed us to the point that that's going to maybe be possible, when we hit the 5,000. So thank you again. And thank you for your looking ahead, Vic, and knowing that I had no idea how expensive things were. So it's just been amazing. And then I think I have found somebody to help move me for 1,500. And so it's all going to just, every bit of it's going to be used for this. And thank you so much, guys.
It's been so much fun listening to piece after piece just fall into place in your life. When we first had that first conversation, afterwards, it sounded like you're doing pretty well. And then as I would check back in on you, you were doing well when you're awake, but when you would try to sleep, you had those nightmare issues. And that's why I referred you over to Anne, which Joe mentioned Anne and what she's doing, helping Joe learn how to lucid dream so that she doesn't have to deal with these horrible night terrors anymore. And I guess some would be considered nightmares, but that's bad enough anyway as it is. But Anne is a living testament to the fact that not all angels have wings. I mean, here she takes her own time to help eyewitnesses out for me who have a lot of trouble with night terrors, Dogman related nightmares and whatnot, and turns that around so that these eyewitnesses can sleep. And as Joe will tell you, I checked back in with her the first night after she had that long conversation with Anne. How long did you two talk? That
3.5 hours the first time. Yes, 3.5 hours.
3.5 hours. Well, yeah, I mean, no wonder you slept so well. Because when I checked in on you the next day, you said you slept like a baby. I think actually, wasn't that the morning when I sent you a message and I woke you up? You were still asleep.
I was still asleep. My body had finally thought, oh, we can sleep, and I was loving it. But it's okay since it was you. So
I thought, oh no, here she's sleeping like a rock, and I woke her up, sending her a message. But yeah, I'm glad that you're back to sleeping the way you should now. Thank goodness for that. Just knowing that when you're awake, you're good to go. When you're asleep now, you're good to go. And before you know it, you're going to be moving into you say you found a house. Well, like I keep telling you, it's your house. Before you know
it
it, you're
is.
going to be moving into your house now.
I had to keep saying a house because I wasn't sure I was going to pull it off, but I can now. I can call it mine.
That's
It's
right. That's
oh,
right. It's your house now. You've got the means to move in. It's just a matter of time before you're actually in it and away from the horrible problems with that black mold and that horrible landlord you have to deal with, which I wasn't going to touch on this. This is a question that's one of those take it or leave it deals, Joe. There's no pressure to answer this, but I'm sure from looking at all the comments that have been left in reference to Friday night show, I'm sure you've noticed all the comments from people hoping that you go after that landlord to sue. Now, there's no pressure, like I said, to answer this, but if you do decide that you want to pursue some type of legal action, just let me know and I could put the word out to see if anyone that listens to the show might happen to be an attorney based in Kansas who might be able to help you, who might be interested in helping you.
that would be wonderful because after reading everything everyone was saying, and I'm such a passive person, it really takes a lot for me to get up in your face, so to speak. But, they were all backing me and saying, hey, you can't let her get by with this. And so I do plan on contacting an attorney. I'm going to see how much I have left over on the GoFundMe to get me started with it. Um, as one listener said, and it so rang home, she's wanting me out of here and she's wanting to sell it now. She's wanting to sell this death trap to somebody. And what if they have kids and things that would even succumb to that black mold even faster? I can't let that happen. I was a patient advocate. I stood up for people as a nurse. I'm still going to do that now. I'm not going to let her hurt anybody else. I'm just not going to let her do it. So
Good
thank
for
you,
you.
everybody, for support.
Good for you. I'm so glad you're going to do that. But, there could be certain circumstances where you might decide that's not in your best interest. I mean, I don't know. There are a lot of things about your life that I don't know that might be affected by you trying to do that. So that's why I was trying to hammer home the fact that, if you want to comment yay or nay, it's totally up to you on that. But moving forward, Joe, when we spoke for the first time, I focused on trying to resolve those issues you're dealing with when you were awake, like I said a bit ago. Please tell us about the kinds of problems you were dealing with, though, when you were awake before we spoke that first time.
Oh, okay. Um, I had it just constant trauma in my head, just thinking about it all the time. Even if I was like involved watching a movie, I would notice that thought was coming in. You know, um, have you made sure all the doors are locked? Are all the curtains pulled? Are you close enough to a window that maybe it could get your scent? I mean, it was terrible. The changes that I went through after this happened to me, it was that I went and bought a house on contract so that I could make changes to it. And one of the first things I did is that it had two beautiful trees on either side of the sidewalk coming up onto the porch. I had them cut down. I hated that. They were beautiful shade, but I was afraid it would come down out of the tree and land on me and kill me. I couldn't even stand that's there. I had 4 locks on every door. I had 6 locks on every window. Even though I knew it could come through, I thought maybe it would slow it down enough. I would hear it and maybe get my daughter running the other direction. I had, they're called blackout curtains for people who, work nights and have to sleep during the day. I had those up on everything in my house, and they were pulled shut all the time so that maybe it couldn't see like my shadow of where I was walking. But more than likely, it could have done it with the scent or even their sound. The way the ears turned independently of each other, it was just like it had unbelievable stereo sound in its hearing. So it probably would have heard me. But I had those pulled all the time so that maybe it couldn't see and come through that way. Um, my daughter, bless her heart, she knew she couldn't play outside. We didn't decorate our house at Christmas time because that would have us outside. We didn't go out and make a snowman. That would have us outside. My daughter, she's 44 now, and if I would say the words to her right now quickly and quietly, she would kind of give a little shudder. And that's because she knew I was terrified of the night. Therefore, she became terrified of the night, which is sad. And when we ever started to get out of the car, I would look at her and I would say quickly and quietly, and she'd say it with me. And how many little kids do you know that can get out of a car and run up to the front door and never make a sound? That's how good she was at it. And she would get between me and the door, and she knew her job was to look around my side to tell me if something was coming. Can you imagine what that would have done to her had she saw that dog man coming? What it looked like? But she was the only alarm I was going to have, and I was reaching around her to unlock the door. So if it came and attacked, it got my body first, and maybe it would leave her alone. Maybe somehow she could get run and be free of it. I mean, it was just awful. I took jobs that didn't pay as much as a nurse because I had to have like doctor hour nurses. So, excuse me, doctor hours as a nurse so that I could be in before dark. Um, it just took over everything with my mind. It was so sad, and and it just got where it was almost this reflex for me to think about those things, and it almost I think made me like a compulsive disorder where I had to keep going back and checking the locks to make sure before I could even lay down and sleep. I had 911. I think they thought I was kind of crazy, but we set up a code and they had a word, and my name was up there by the phone. If I called and said this word, they knew the address and they knew that I was being attacked and probably was going to be being killed. And so they were to send somebody quickly. I didn't even want to be on the phone long enough to be describing that. I wanted to be grabbing my daughter, and I had a little place out in a closet I had put to try to pull things in front of us. And I wanted in there with her, and they knew where they would find us. I mean, it was just terrible. Seasonal depression set in. Why? Because in the wintertime, it gets dark quicker. And so my anxiety level would just go up that way. I mean, I had to fight it more. And I went to the doctor. I started having panic attacks. I couldn't breathe. Oh, they were horrible. And they'd make you feel numb, like you were going to pass out. And I thought, boy, I can't have this happening. I've got to, be alert all the time for my daughter's safety. And so the doctor put me on an antidepressant. It really wasn't happening, or it wasn't really helping, and I didn't want to go up on a higher dose. So he asked me to go see, somebody for outside counseling. So I started that, and they did a test on me for PTSD. And he came back in and looked at me kind of funny, and he said, "Have you ever done any service?" And I said, "Service." He said, "Like Army, Navy?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "Huh, you score high enough on as PTSD, like someone who's seen live action, like you've been exposed to areas that your life could have been threatened for long periods of time. You were on high alert." He said, "Can you tell me why that is?" And I said, "No, sir, I cannot. Because if you guys remember on Friday night when we talked about it, my boyfriend and I made a vow, we made a pinky swear to never tell anybody about it because they'd think we were crazy, or maybe it would bring it back to attack us." And so I couldn't tell him. And so he got really upset with me and said he was going to quit seeing me if I didn't open up. And I said, well, I'm sorry, I can't. So he wrote on my diagnosis, battered wife syndrome. That wasn't the case at all. But I couldn't, tell him what it was. And so he contacted my doctor and he was saying, oh, no, that's not her. I know her. No, you got it wrong. If you guys remember on Friday night, I told you the hair would stand up on the back of my neck, and it was like my body learned, oh no, it's coming. I would still get that. And I would automatically just go, no, 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 and I'd be looking around frantically. I wouldn't see it. But something told me that it was still around. It was still keeping tabs on me. And I wasn't sure why it wasn't coming on up and, making itself known like it had. But I often wondered if he showed up to see our daughter, would that make it mad like it did when he grabbed my arm? Because I saw the change in its eyes that night. It was anger. And I told him, you can never be within 10 feet of me. I think it will attack us. I'm not sure why, but I just don't think it likes you at all. And so, she grew up telling people that she never saw her mom and dad in the same room ever. And it's probably one of the few kids that can say that from a broken home, but they never did. And so the fact that I felt like it was watching me, from a distance, I think also played into me starting to have the panic attacks that I started having because I didn't know when it was going to decide, okay, that's long enough. I'm coming. But thank God it didn't. And so that's how it has affected me and still had, up till now.
You poor thing. No one should have to go through all that. That is absolutely horrible. I'm so glad that you came to terms with your encounters, but how easy or difficult was it for you to come to terms with them after that first conversation or two we had?
Oh, I forgot one other thing. If you bear with me here. Um, Also, during that time, I started contacting different faiths and asking, uh, Catholic priest, Baptist pastors, Pentecostal pastors, have you guys ever known anything like this? Could this be some kind of demon? Because remember, I hadn't met you and had the term Dogman yet. I had them coming over. One did exorcism on the house. One tried to do an exorcism on me because I told him I'd had heard the words when I was first starting to look up at it. If you look it in the eyes, it's going to come into you. So I didn't know if that was possession or into the house. Um, they were, uh, anointing the windows and doors with oil, saying maybe it couldn't pass across that now. They had me wearing cross necklaces, cross bracelets, cross rings. I mean, I was trying everything I could think of to help and, praying protection over. I was burning sage every week in the house. So I had every avenue. And so then after I talked to you, and you gave me that insight about, you know, I'm kind of overreacting. Now I'm almost my own worst enemy because if it was going to kill me, it would have done it. It was kind of hard for me to think I have been mountain climbing a molehill all this time. But this guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about. Could it be that simple? Could I be able to actually do that? And I don't know, Vic, there's something about your voice, and I'm sure your listeners think that too. It's so calming and it's so soothing that, you're just like a warm blanket being put on somebody that's just shaking from a chill they can't get over. And I thank you for your kindness and your patience. It comes through in your voice and in your actions. And that first night when I actually got some sleep, I was amazed. And I couldn't wait to tell you that next day, hey, I got sleep. I didn't have a nightmare. I don't remember the last time I could have said that. And I just want to thank you again because, that's what killed my ex-husband is that every time he tried to go to sleep, he'd see those green glowing eyes, you know, bearing in right into his soul. And that's why he would drink or get wasted on pills, and it killed him for it. And I just wasn't about to let that happen to both of her parents. And so I put up with the nightmares. But I don't have to now. Thank you, and thanks to Anne.
That's right. You definitely don't have to. You don't. Yeah, please don't forget that either. When you first spoke with Anne, oh, I'm sorry. What did you say?
I said, I promise you I will not forget.
Great. Yeah, I hope you never do. That's for sure. Due to the problems Joe was still having with nightmares and night terrors, that's why I referred her over to Anne. If it was just a matter of, okay, I think she can beat these night terrors and nightmares with a little bit of time, I would have just left it at that and had confidence that, okay, she'll get better. But yeah, from what you told me about the problems you're having with those nightmares and night terrors, I thought, yeah, there's definitely a problem here where she needs some serious help to overcome this. You told us that you had nightmares and night terrors, but you didn't tell us what the nature of the night terrors were or the nightmares. Please go into detail on that for us.
Oh boy. Okay. I'll give you an example of a few of the nightmares until it gets to where it's hard for me to talk about it. One of them was that I would seem like I was outside, I was busy doing something, and I had forgotten the time, and it was getting dark on me. And I was trying to throw and put everything up and try to get into the house, and it seemed like the harder I tried to get there, the quicker it was becoming dark. The further away the house seemed to be getting, I wasn't making it to it, and I was giving it everything I had. And I got up to the front door, got my hand on the doorknob, and it landed on the porch. With the left hand, it pinned me down from the shoulders up. It took its feet with the claws, and it buried it in to my, my left thigh. So it had me pinned there. And then it leaned over me, and with the right hand, the claws, it ripped my abdomen clear open. And as I'm laying there screaming, it reached in, pulled my intestines out, and started eating them in front of me. That would be the type of that. The next time it might be my liver. But it was always, I was being eaten alive, and it was loving it. Another one would be that I was going in to my bedroom to put laundry up. And I always had little night lights in every room at night so that my daughter and I could see. And, like I said, the windows weren't going to let any kind of light in. And I would be going in there with some laundry, was going to put it up in my chest of drawers. And I took and put the laundry up on top of it so I could open up a drawer to put it in. And I realized, oh my God, I just set the laundry onto something that shouldn't be up there. What is this? Kind of hard. And so I leaned forward in the dark to look, and I recognized the shininess of the claws. It was its feet. It was standing up on top of that, and it reached down and pulled me up by the throat, clear up to where I was hanging in the air, eye to eye with it. And it looked at me for a minute, and then it just bit in and ripped my throat out. That was another one that seemed to hit me all the time. Another one was I would wake up in my bed, but you're still asleep, but you think you really woke up. And as I would look over in the corner, would be two of those yellowish green eyes glowing and shining up quite a bit. And I would realize that it was in the room. And so I would start screaming, and then I would actually be waking up, and I would turn on the light. The light switch was right above my head, and it wasn't even there. And then I realized it wasn't in the bedroom with me, that I had just, dreamed that it was. So that would kind of scare me. Another one was that it's like I was in an old abandoned western town of some sort, and it was chasing me, and there wasn't anybody else around, and I was running into buildings and trying to hide and different things, and all of a sudden it would be ahead of me. And I would think, oh my God. So I would turn around and I would start running the other way. And it would be in front of me again. And I would go, God. And I thought, is it trying to wear me out? And I'm going back and forth. And each time, I got lesser and lesser with the amount that I was being able to run to until it was almost pinning me down. And then at the last minute, two of them walked out. I realized it hadn't been just one that I was trying to outrun the whole time. It was two. And they'd been playing games with me, just kind of feeding on my fear like an appetizer before they jumped me. And then that's when both of them would jump on me and just start ripping me up. I mean, the pain was just unbelievable of being just tore apart while you're still there. And that's kind of the essence of them. And I'm starting to shake pretty hard. So I'm sorry. I don't think I can say anymore right now.
No, that's okay. I totally understand. Please don't. For anyone listening, please imagine for a second what it would be like to know when you go to bed every night that that is waiting for you. That's why I'm so glad that Ann's there and is so interested in helping people the way she does. Someone asked in the comment section, well, what's Ann's last name? Well, I don't put that out there. I'm not too sure that she would want me to put it out there, so I don't. But yeah, like I said, she's living proof that not all angels have wings because she really is a miracle worker. I don't know how she works her magic, but time after time with eyewitnesses who've had a lot of trouble with Dogman related night terrors and nightmares, what she does, teaching them and teaching you too, Joe, how to lucid dream, it works. Time after time, it works. So why ask why? I'm just so glad that she's there and she does what she does. Thank
Well, you
goodness.
bet. Teaches you to realize, hey, this is a dream. I'm dreaming. I could become in charge of this. Now I'm the big bad wolf in this, and I can control you. And that is really empowering, you know.
That's great. That is great. Yeah, nothing to fear then. So that's understandable.
Right.
Joe, you told us Friday night that as a kid, you weren't allowed to express emotions the way most kids are allowed to. Did growing up in that environment suppress your fear response, in your opinion?
Well, I would guess so because I never thought that I could even become afraid. Fear, I was taught, was a weakness. Fear was something that girls do. Guys don't do that. Guys are strong. Guys are tough. Guys are worth something. And so I tried real hard. Like I said, that's why I quit going by Joyce to Joe. I was trying so hard to show that I had worth and I could be just as tough as them. So it probably did suppress it in a way, in the fact, by the way of, since I didn't learn when I was young how to deal with it appropriately, that when it did start happening to me, I was lost. I had no healthy ways of dealing with it. So at that point, it probably was four times or five times as bad as it would have been for somebody that, mom and dad rocked them on their lap and said, there's nothing to be afraid of. I'm right here. That's normal. I didn't get those things. So, yeah, I think it definitely affected everything about the fear aspect of it.
Oh, I'm sure it did. And like I've told you several times before, I'm so sorry you had to grow up experiencing things like that. That is horrible. In fact, that reminds me of the one story you told me about the time when you went home and asked your mom if she loved you. What's the story behind that, if you don't mind putting that out there?
I had gotten off the school bus and I noticed a lady giving her daughter a hug. And she said, I'll see you later. I love you. And gave her a kiss on the forehead. And the little girl said, I love you. And I thought, now, wait a second. I've never been told that I'm loved. My mom's never said that to me. And it bothered me all day. And so I went home and I walked up to her. And I was like 10 at the time. And I said, I saw something today. And I told her. And I could tell she was kind of getting a little agitated with me. And I said, I was just wondering, do you love me? And I started to kind of look up at her, and I didn't even see it coming. Man, she hit me so hard across.
the right side of my face. I guess it was open hand. I don't know. But my head went to the left so hard it felt like it sprung my neck. And she said, "How dare you insult me like that? How dare you? You have clothes on your back, you have food in your stomach, and you have a bed to sleep in. If I didn't love you, you wouldn't have any of those things. How dare you hurt me that way? How dare you say that?" And I felt so bad that I had hurt my mom that way, by being a horrible person and hurting her, that I actually grieved for the way I treated her for probably 2 weeks. And so I just never questioned anything after that. I knew one time, this probably sounds bad to everybody, but I kind of knew what the emotion hate felt like. If I got physically hurt, you know, my mom would laugh. She thought it was funny. And I would hate that. I would hate she did that. But I didn't think I hated her. Well, when I was 4, um, I saw on a neighbor's TV that you could hang a stocking up at Christmas time and you could get all kinds of candy. And that was something I didn't get. And I thought, wow. So I went home and, I wasn't dumb. I was going to get one of my little socks. I was going to get one of my dad's socks. I was going to have candy for the whole year. He had a size 12 foot. And they asked me what I was doing. And I said, "I'm going to have a stocking full of candy. Santa brings that to you." And they're all looking at each other kind of funny. Well, I didn't realize that they were poor and they didn't have money to get me candy to fill up a sock. They didn't have money, which is why we didn't have a Christmas tree and we didn't celebrate Christmas. I didn't know that back then. I thought it was from somebody that could afford it, I guess, or he just magically made it. So I put the stocking up against the front door. And I got up the next morning and I went running out there, and this stocking was stretched. Oh my gosh, so full. And I looked up at my mom and my oldest brother, I told you was always giving me a hard time. And I had this big smile, and they're trying not to giggle. And that should have been a warning. But I grabbed it and turned it upside down and started shaking it, expecting all of this, and out flew uh, rotten potatoes and black-eyed beans that weren't cooked yet, cigarettes, cigarette lighter, some rocks, just strange stuff. I mean, I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I stopped and I'm looking at that and I'm looking up kind of confused, and they are just laughing, like holding their sides, laughing. And I think that's the first time I ever felt the emotion hate, actually hate somebody. I hated that they thought it was so funny that I wasn't good enough to get, the candy. And my brother said, "See, even Santa doesn't like you because you're a girl." And I went back and got in bed, and I don't think I even got out the rest of that day. I didn't even want to eat. So emotions, when I did have them, they weren't healthy, they weren't good. And so it really did mess with me. It really did.
Well, it's understandable why it did mess with you. Shame on her. Shame on your parents for treating you the way they did. That is just horrible. And for her to get into a tiff the way she did when you quote unquote had the nerve to ask her if she loved you, well, that's a testament right there to why you asked her. Her response, yeah, that's horrible. And one of the reasons why I asked you to lay that out for us is to set up the opportunity to basically help the listeners understand where you are coming from compared to where you are now. You haven't really been shown all that much at all in the way of love and support, but now you've got tons of love and tons of support from the Dogman community. As you can see, there are tons and tons of people that are supporting you from all sorts of different countries. You've got people listening in Bangladesh to you talk about
Oh,
your
gosh.
experiences. China,
Wow.
yeah,
Oh,
Australia, You've got people listening to you in every continent except for Antarctica. So you've got love, you've got support now. Please never forget that.
Guys just have no idea what this means to me. You have shown me more love in the last 48 hours than I've had put together my entire life. Thank you so much. I'm just going to be so amazed when that hits 5,000. Oh
I
my
told you.
God.
I told
Thank you,
you.
guys. Yes, you
They're
did.
they're
But
amazing.
when you don't grow up feeling that, it's hard to imagine that, you know? And I think that's one reason why I loved being a nurse so much because, I could be there for people and show kindness and things, and they appreciated it so much. And them, giving me a hug and saying thank you, they didn't know it, but they were kind of meeting a need in my heart too,
Yeah.
because I was being shown kindness back, and it was wonderful.
Definitely is. Yeah, I just keep hammering home the fact that you're not alone now. You've got support, you've got love. These people wouldn't support you the way they do and are if they didn't feel that way about you. So, yeah, like I said, please never forget that. It looks like I've got the first question for you from the live chat. Are you ready to start answering them?
Yes, I am.
All right, great. The first one is from Mars Stahl, and Mar wants to know, Joe, are you going to be able to take all of your furniture with the black mold?
Well, I know one of you guys warned me that it could be on some of the furniture, so I'm going to ask somebody from the health department to come and examine it with me and see if I have it. If I do, no, I won't be taking that piece of furniture. I'll leave it here uh, for her to enjoy with the mold in the house. And the ones that are okay, I will go ahead and take. And I didn't even realize it could get on furniture. I planned on selling my furniture to try to be able to move in there. And I would have felt so bad if I sold somebody something with black mold. So I appreciated the listener telling me that. And that's how I'm going to deal with that. A good question. Thank you.
That is a good question. The next one is from Queen of Ocean, and Queen wants to know, how far out in the country were you when you had these encounters?
5 miles. It was exactly 5 miles to our farm.
Yeah, that's pretty far out there. Her next question is, what state was this in, please? Thank you.
The state of Kansas.
And that's why I asked if there are any attorneys listening who are based in Kansas who might be interested in taking this case up against that awful landlord, the slumlord. That's why
Yeah.
I asked about that.
I
The
live in
next,
southeast Kansas, and I'm about 110 miles from the Oklahoma border.
it's a lot of country around there.
Oh, yeah.
I've got another one for you from Baby Girl, and her question is, do you think that Dogman was jealous of your boyfriend?
I wondered about, I don't know if it was like jealousy that it didn't like me, but I think that it had determined that I was it. I belonged to it so that it could torture me, so it could enjoy the fear. And when he grabbed a hold of me, you're right. That's when the look changed. And that's when it was coming, it was coming through the side of the house where it could have just come through the window before. So, yeah, it definitely changed its motive at that point. That's why I always made sure that he and I were never around each other again because I saw that change. But like I said, I don't think that it was jealousy. It was just anger that he was trying to take its toy that he messed with to get fear so he could enjoy it.
Yeah, pretty sadistic, but that's how it goes with these guys, like I've been explaining to you. That's par for the course. This next one is from Cynthia Cole, and Cynthia's question is, Joe, do you think you'll get a dog now? As you already know, pit bulls are protective and big goofballs too. Yeah, that they are. It may help you to heal from this trauma to get a dog.
My daughter and I were talking about that last night, and I am proud to tell everyone that she knows a guy that his dog just had puppies 3 weeks ago. And so in another 3 weeks, we're going to have a new addition to our home. And it is part Shih I don't even know how to say it. I've not been around that many dogs. And part Pomeranian. So I hope that's a cute mixture. And it won't be that big, so I guess it could bite the toes of a dog man. But maybe it would at least alert us that it's there. But yes, we are going to try that experience.
That's funny. Bite the toes. Yeah, that it could. I was going to ask you this question later on, but now that we're talking about getting a pet, getting a dog, I'm going to post this comment. Joe Daniels put a comment up that says, Joe, if you get a support animal /pet/baby, can you call it Vic? That's funny.
You know what? The one that she's talking about is a little boy. You know, I think we will do that. Vic,
Uh-oh.
you're going to have a namesake.
Yeah.
If it's in trouble, if you get in trouble, we're going to say Victor. But if it's not in trouble, Vic.
That sounds like a plan. That's funny.
It does.
That's too funny. Never a dull moment. Yeah, my cousin, who's old enough to be my uncle, or actually a father, he used to tease me because he used to say there was a dog named Vic that was around the family had before I was even born that I was named after. I wasn't, but yeah, this is giving me flashbacks. He used to tell me that all the time. All the time. But now that we're sharing comments, Jessica Voiles has a comment. She says, Joe, you've just adopted a huge family, or maybe we've adopted you. I wanted to make sure you knew about that comment. That's awfully nice of her.
That is so precious. Oh my gosh. Thank you, sweetheart. You guys are wonderful. How about we just all adopt each other? I don't want to lose you guys now that I've got you.
I told you, they're incredible.
You know, I just never dreamed people were that way, because if your own family isn't loving toward you, how can a stranger be?
Yeah,
But you've
that's
taught
right.
me that they are.
That's right. They are. They're just good people out there, and that's all there is to it. So why ask why? I always say. I've got another question for you from Andres Carrizales. And Andres wants to know, have you listened to the Roy Stubblefield episode or episodes? The first one is episode 257. About what happened to Herman. Was it like that for you? Very thankful that your family, no, I'm sorry, very thankful that you're finally healing and sleeping well.
You know, I have listened to that program. As a matter of fact, I've had the privilege of speaking with Roy on the phone because I wanted to ask him about Herman. That is so amazing that you brought that up. And yes, it was a lot like that, only with Herman, he didn't get the help that he needed in time, and he continued to go down and down and down until he committed suicide. I don't know if you guys know that or not. But, yeah, and that has really hit Roy hard. Of course, what could he do? He didn't know him, before that night, and he helped getting back to his mom's house. I mean, he did what he could do. But, some people, it just affects them worse. And I'm telling you, if that Dogman would have nailed me down into the gravel like that and not had a window between us and been on top of me and looking at him that way, and he said they didn't have it on the show, but it actually bent its head down and went forehead to forehead almost with him, looking him in the eyes that close. Now you think about the influence that they have when they lock eyes with you. Who knows what thoughts it put into his head? My heart breaks for him. It just breaks. So he had it 10 times worse than I did. I thank God that I was never on the same side of the window.
I do too, but other things go into it, your emotional makeup and things like that. Certain things the Dogman does do or doesn't do. So it's really hard to say. You can have factors that make it seem like this person over here wouldn't have been traumatized to the point that this person over there was. But yeah, those things, those metrics I just mentioned, it makes it so you never really know how strongly someone's going to be affected by their encounter. It's just really hard to say. All I can say about that matter is I really wish I could have spoken with Herman before he committed suicide. I really do.
Me
Well,
too. He would have prevented it, Vic. I really do.
I hope so. Yeah, I've spoken with eyewitnesses who had it even worse than him in situations that were even more tense than that, attack
Like,
victims. So,
wow,
and they're doing okay now. But
that's wonderful.
shoulda, coulda, woulda. It's just too late to help him. But moving on, I've got another question for you, Joe, from Angie Wilson. And Angie wants to know, do you know for sure that the sewage and mold was removed?
You know, you guys also had me thinking on that. When he first came and said, "Oh my God, you're so right. That's like 2.5, 3 foot deep in there," and he's like measuring with his hands. He said, "It's going to take us some time to get that all removed and disposed of, and then that area is going to have to dry out. We're going to replace the broken sewer pipe. We're going to treat and get rid of the black mold, and then we're going to let that all air out. That'll be at least 5 days." And then you'll be able to come back. He came back. He started at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning. He came over to the neighbor's house at 1:30 the next afternoon and said that they could move my recliner back. They moved my recliner over there so I could sleep because I can't lay flat with my breathing difficulties now. And the lady I was there with said, "Now, wait a second. You're telling me that you have that all done?" And he said, "Yes, we worked overtime." And she looked at him kind of funny and she said, "There were two of you." And he said, We did a good job." And he looked at me and he said, "I want you to know that you were right about everything." And he's looking me right in the eye. "Everything you said was right. And I'm so sorry about your health." And when he left, she said, "Isn't that kind of weird he did that?" And I said, "Yeah." But she told him, "You can't take her chair today. I don't feel right about it." He said, "Okay, well, we're done. We'll come back and get your chair and move you back tomorrow morning." And I said, "Well, okay." And she just kept saying, "There's something wrong." So, you know, I got thinking about that. There's no way that they could have got that all out, just two of them, that much. There's no way they let it dry. And then as I was talking to Vic, I hope this is okay. I say this, Vic, about him putting the lye on the black mold to kill it. Vic looked it up and informed me that lye doesn't kill black. And I was really and he said, "You probably shouldn't even be smelling the lye," because we came back and our eyes were burning, our throats were burning, our nose was burning. And I told her, I said, "Well, that must be the lye killing it." But I think it was just added, you know, things in the air that we were smelling. But whatever he did killed the scent. We haven't smelled that sewer scent. So I think they probably did something to cover it up. And that's why she's wanting me out so fast so she can sell it to somebody else that's unsuspecting. And that's why as soon as I get my things out and I'm in that place, I'm going to start getting someone to move on this, get an attorney. Because I think if I started it before I had my things, I think she probably would have a bunch of people come in here and throw my stuff out on the front lawn, and I am not physically able to stop it. She has a lot of power in this town. Let me just say that. Because she owns a lot of rental properties here. So she has a lot of control. So, yeah, I think it's a cover up. I really do.
Oh, I'm sure it was. In more ways than one, putting that lye on top of the black mold to try and cover it up. Yeah, that's why I was pissed off when you told me about them doing that. The burning has to be the dust in the air from the lye that you definitely don't want to be breathing. Shame on him for doing that. And I'm sure that your landlord knew full well that that's what he was going to do. So it was a
I
cheap way to quote unquote fix the problem, which it didn't fix it. Shame on her too in so many ways. That is awful.
I bet she paid him off. I really do. I bet she paid him off because he did not want to do that job. He said to the guy that was with him when he was explaining that was laughing and saying, "I'm going to call in all week, boss." And he goes, "Yeah, I want to call in too because, of what they were going to have to clean out." And I was sitting there feeling bad, but I kept saying, "I told them for going on 7 years. I'm so sorry." And he goes, "No, no, I'm not blaming you. But if she paid him off for a certain amount of money, and he didn't want to get in there and do that anyway, I'm sure he got it down just enough to get to the pipe, changed it out, and walked out, you know? So I think that's why his guilt was telling me a little bit, you were right about everything, and I'm sorry about your health. I think that was his warning and kind of cryptic, and I just didn't pick up on it. So, yeah. I think that's even giving, and I'm just guessing, giving him bribe money or cover up money or something was probably going to be a lot cheaper than if he actually charged her for all the hours. And they probably would have even charged her to take it someplace to be disposed of properly, wouldn't they?
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
she
they
was
sure would
picking
have.
up money. So, yeah. So she just probably thought, I'll just do it this way and then sell it real quick before anybody catches on that it's not my problem.
Anything to
Yeah.
save a buck. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
despicable. That's
it is.
horrible. Looks like I have another question for you from Rochelle Bayer. Her question is, Joe, what kind of life did your parents have? Do you think your mother was a narcissist?
Well, uh, my father had a sixth grade education. My mother had an eighth grade education. She was from the back hills of the Ozarks. He was from the hills of Missouri. Um, I just think they came from a very uneducated family. They, went through the 30s with Great Depression, and I mean, they just had nothing. And when my dad's, his father died, he was in the sixth grade, and he had to quit work and go work in a factory right next to grown men to help bring money home. So I just don't think that they ever knew any kindness. They were only, shown roughness. If you can imagine a young boy in there with these men, probably how they were picking on him and things. That's all they ever knew. And if that's all you've ever grown up around, that's the only thing you know to pass on. So I really can't get mad at them. Uh, I just have to understand it. And the only way I feel like maybe I broke it, and this is going to sound so silly, but same thing was going for me. I wasn't seeing anything different. And when I did mention this girl and her mom saying that, I got clocked pretty hard. So I was over at a friend's house a few times. My mom was working late, and the Brady Bunch was coming on. And I honestly thought that's how families were. And so I kind of took mental notes from that. And I tried to, decide that when I was going to be a mom, I was going to try to be just like them. And so, I was going to tell my kids that I loved them every day because I didn't get that. Or I would do this or I would do, something else every day. I would make sure they had a present every Christmas, because I knew what it was like not to get anything. And so I really can't be mad at them. I actually feel sorry for them. I really do.
I can understand why you feel sorry for them because you just have such a pure heart, but please forgive me. I don't. I can't stand them for what they did to you. You're such a pure soul. Shame on them for treating you the way they did. I don't care what the circumstances were. There are tons of people out there who weren't shown love as kids and they've lived a very difficult life, but still they're very loving to their children. No excuse. No excuse at all. I'm not buying it. Not buying it at all. Well, I've got another question for you from Raider Joe. And Raider wants to know, not sure if I missed it or not, but was that the last event after that night at the boyfriend's house?
Me that I saw the Dogman.
Yes.
Um, that was the last time that it came at me just full force. Right after, like I said, I took my last test that day when daylight came and finished out my nursing. And so I had already been talking to a hospital in Miami, Oklahoma, about getting a job at the hospital there in the OB ward. And so I had found through their recruiter an apartment that was furnished, and it had like 4 apartments in one big house, and nurses lived in those, so it felt kind of safe. And I just took my clothes and, personal hygiene effects in my car, and I was gone. And Dale moved out of town, my ex, with his family, and he turned the house back over to the guy he was buying it on contract. And then he ended up coming down to where I was. So we made sure we stayed away from that area, trying not to have that happen. And that's when we, decided to get married. And I found out I was pregnant with my daughter. But he was having nightmares. I was having nightmares. And we just weren't going to make it. And he left. He got a job with a railroad that put him around all different states repairing tracks from trains having accidents or jumping the track and cutting it all to pieces. And, so we just made sure that we were never around each other again. Like I said, she never saw us in the same room together. She grew up. So, but I did feel like when I came back in this area, where the hair would stand up the back of my neck, that it was checking. It was checking. So kind of yes and no, I guess, huh? I felt it. I knew it was around, but it never came right at me.
When you have extreme experiences, it's not uncommon to take extreme measures. So I get it. I understand. I've got another comment for you, Joe, from the Young Homesteaders. The comment is almost seems like the body language of a protective dog, if you want to draw that parallel. Of course, talking about the way that Dogman acted when he saw your boyfriend grab your arm there. And then I've got another comment for you from Baby Girl, and her question is, the Dogman family will always watch each other's backs. And that's true. They prove it all the time. I've got a question for you from Be Kind, and they want to know, how close was the neighbor's house who called the cops? King distracted and alerted the neighbor, which saved you both.
Oh, let's see. I'm going to guess probably 70 feet. Probably between 60 and 70 feet. They weren't that far away.
Pretty close
So,
then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say.
He really heard it. And like I said, he heard King, the screams obviously were from, King having his limbs ripped off. That was what that screaming was for. And it didn't even sound like a dog. It was such sheer pain. And he thought it was me being hurt. And that's why he called them and said, I think she's over there. He didn't even know my name. And I think she's getting killed. You better get here. So, yeah, he was close enough that he heard everything. And it was dark, so I guess he couldn't see what was going on. It's a good thing for him because he'd been having nightmares too. Had he looked out and saw what was actually happening, wouldn't he? So glad he didn't.
He sure would have. He definitely would have. This next question is related to what you just told us about, talking about what happened to King, unfortunately. And you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to. It's a sensitive one, but Be Kind wanted to know, is this too hard of a question to ask? That's a question, obviously. Was King's heart taken?
How did she know that? Wow. Okay, she just kind of scared me a little. Yes, it was missing. We didn't know if it ripped it out and threw it somewhere in the yard that they didn't find it, or it took it with it. Does that, Vic, have something to do with the Dogman?
Yeah, that's kind of a pattern. That's not uncommon for them to do that, to take the heart. And Be Kind had an encounter already. So
Really?
that explains it.
Wow, boy, I'd love to talk to Be Kind. So she had an animal that the heart was taken?
That I can't remember. I talk with so many eyewitnesses. I can tell you that their encounter was on episode 518. Be Kind's encounter was episode 518, if you want to listen to the particulars.
Listen to, yeah, I wish there was some way that I could connect with that person. later on. I don't know if that's even possible.
I could
But
put you into contact. I could put you into contact. Be kind. If you can send me a message, I know you still have my contact info. If you can shoot me a text message to let me know if you'd be up for a conversation with Joe, just let me know, and I'd be more than happy to get that set up. That'd be
thank you.
really easy. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. It looks like baby girl wants to know how tall that Dogman was.
Oh, it was a good 8.5 to 9 foot, easy. And I know that because of the way the house I lived in was set up, and where it was on those windows. Yeah, 9 foot, easy. It might have been 9.5. It was big. It was so big that you couldn't comprehend it could be that big, if that makes sense. It, you know, it was just, it looked like the size that you would think a big Kodiak bear or something would be standing up on his back feet. It was huge.
That is
Wow.
awfully big. They get bigger than that, though. They can be 12 feet.
Oh
So,
my, serious?
yeah, they get bigger than that. They do. That's why so many people, they talk about 10-foot Sasquatch, and they get taller than that also, but they talk about how a 10-foot Sasquatch would be so much more powerful and so much bigger than a dogman. Well, it depends.
Yeah.
Are you talking about a 12-foot dogman? I mean, that would be one heck of a fight, I'm sure, between a 12-foot dogman and a 10-foot Sasquatch. Between even
Yeah.
a 12-foot dogman and a 12-foot Sasquatch, I'm not really sure who to bet on because the Sasquatch doesn't have 6-inch long talons on the tips of its fingers and canine
Right.
teeth that are probably that long also. So, and the
He's right
strength
out of
also to push fifth wheel trailers up onto two wheels and do things like that, to one shot big animals, to one shot bulls and things like that. So
yeah.
it's really hard to say which way that would go. It is.
That's right out of my mouth because I was going to say, yeah, well, I don't think a Bigfoot has those teeth and definitely doesn't have those claws. So I've seen what those can do.
You sure have, unfortunately. I've got one more question for you. We're about 68 minutes in, and then we're going to get ready to close it down. But this last question is from Bang Bang Screwtube, and their question is, Joe, I listen to Dogman encounters in order to sleep at night. Have you tried listening to healing frequency music?
I have not. Is there a site that you can recommend?
That's a good question. I'm not really sure what would be the best way to listen to it, but probably Googling it or something like that would turn up an option or two. But
Well, I can certainly try that going in, but if it, in a few more weeks or months, if it still tries to hop into my dreams, I think Anne's going to have me ready to go with it then. It'll find out that it's not the big bad wolf anymore. I've been trained in lucid dreams and I'm going to get it this time. So it might
there,
want to know that.
there you go. I love hearing that. I love it. I do. Well, before we get out of here, Joe, do you have any closing comments you'd like to put out there for us?
I just want to thank everybody again for allowing me to tell my encounter, for not passing judgment on me, but believing me and supporting me and telling me that you do. Thank you to everybody who donated, whether it was like he said, your love in a comment or money from all over. There would have been no way that even selling the furniture we had, I knew there'd be no way that I could get us that house. I was going to have to end up being in a house that I probably couldn't even safely get in and out of, but I had to have it for my daughter. You guys have made that all possible. I know. I just know in my heart we're going to hit the 5,000 mark thanks to all of you, and we'll be able to start our life anew. And there just aren't enough words for me or enough time for me to say how thankful I am, how much I love you guys, and thank you for showing me what I didn't find out growing up, and that's that people are good and they love you and they will help you when the chips are down. Thank you guys. God bless you all.
Very well said. Very well said. A better group of people you're not going to find. I mean, they're absolutely amazing. They really are.
You're right
But,
there at the top, my friend. You're right there at the top. Thank you.
well, thanks for saying that. That's awfully nice of you. But
You're the
I just
cherry on top.
I just want the best of you, like everyone else here does. But having said that, Joe, thanks again so much for coming back on to answer all these questions. Thanks for coming on for the first show to tell us about your experiences. I really do appreciate it. And like I told you before, if you ever need help, I'll be there for you. Just let me know.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless you all.
You're welcome. Have a great night. If you've had a Dogman encounter and would like to speak with me about it, it doesn't matter if you want to speak with me in private about it or if you do want to come on the show. All you have to do is just go to dogmanencounters.com, submit a report, and if you do that, then I'd be more than happy to schedule a conversation with you, a phone conversation. But if you've had a Sasquatch sighting and would like to be a guest on one of my 2 Bigfoot podcasts, that's easy as well. Please go to my bigfootsighting.com and let me know, fill out a guest request form and let me know, and I'll be in contact with you that way. But having said that, if you would like to donate to Joe's GoFundMe page, if you go to dogmanencounters.com, right on the homepage, you'll find a link for it. Or if you just look in the description for tonight's show, if you look in the description for Friday night's show, you'll find a link to that GoFundMe page to help donate and support her. But like I said at the head of the show, I can't thank you enough for supporting this lady the way you have. You're just amazing. I can't do it justice. I really can't. I can't thank you enough. But having said all that, thanks again so much for supporting these eyewitnesses the way you do. I really do appreciate it, and they do too. But have a great night.